Thank you, Dr. Bennett, and you will be taking the first question. This question comes from Keith Spurgeon, who is Superintendent of the Metropolitan School District of Mount Vernon, and this question was also echoed by several other superintendents around the state. It has to do with school consolidation. Do you support the Kernan-Shepard report recommendation of a minimum school district size of 2,000? And if you support consolidation, how would you force and/or encourage schools to deal with this issue?
Well, let me start by saying I do not, while I 100% a bipartisan study that helps us study and work to make our taxing units. We have 2,600 taxing units in the state of Indiana, and it is incumbent upon superintendents and the CEOs of taxing units to make sure we operate efficiently. I support the Kernan-Shepard's report on that. I don't believe there's a magic number. I don't believe the magic number is 2,000. What I do believe is there are magic opportunities in our schools that we need to capture, and the Department of Ed should be a resource for capturing those opportunities. We should supply school corporations with objective consultants so that when school corporations want to engage in those efficiency studies, they have the voice and the expertise of an objective consultant who will help them make an informed decision. Other than that, we should be sure we are always doing everything we can to maximize efficiency. In our hometown, we meet with all of our taxing units so that we make sure that the municipalities spend their money to serve the citizens, and we spend our money to educate kids, and we avoid duplication. So I do 100% support the Kernan-Shepard report. I don't believe we should necessarily force school corporations to consolidate. We should be a resource and encourage them to do so with very accurate and clear information.
Dr. Wood, a response?
Thank you. First of all, I think there are two types of consolidation. There is economic consolidation, which we can all agree is in our best interest to ensure that we're doing the maximum effort we can to do cooperative purchasing and work together, eliminate duplication, and I think we're finding that many of our school corporations are effectively engaged in this now through our education service centers, through special ed cooperatives, through vocational education cooperatives. And as Dr. Bennett says, I certainly agree this is something the Department of Education needs to continue to foster. I think there are also things we can do as a state to allow school corporations to share employees, that there are things we can do with teacher contracts to make it possible for an individual to hold employment with more than one school corporation, that school districts could then share perhaps a curriculum director or a foreign language instructor. So there are creative things that we can do. As far as political consolidation, I do not believe we should force that. School districts have the capacity to do this already under the law, and there are some real benefits still to having local control over local schools and having individuals vote for their individual school board members who have a close tie. I think it is important that we continue to foster the idea of the community school and that each individual community is responsible for the success of the education program because they have that direct ownership and they have that direct feeling and understanding of what's best for their community, what the community can tolerate, what they can bear as far as taxation and other challenges. So again, economic consolidation, yes. Political consolidation, we do not need to force that beyond the status quo.
Dr. Bennett, a rebuttal?
I think the Department of Ed has to do a better job with deregulation so that some of these issues take care of themselves. Last week I got a letter from a superintendent in Howard County who has the community's public library in his high school, has a master's degree individual with library science, and the Department of Ed would not give them a waiver to use that person as a media specialist. That is a true waste of community resources. That's a duplication of community resources. So I think the Department of Ed has to be active in addressing that issue.
All right, thank you. Dr. Wood gets our next question, and this is from Jeffrey Stevens, Superintendent of DeKalb County Easter Consolidated School District. As Superintendent of Public Instruction, will you be an advocate for public education, or will you seek to provide funds and state resources to non-public programs or organizations?
Thank you. The state superintendent needs to be an advocate for all forms of education, not merely public education. I think with the question, though, when you're talking about public resources for private schools, there are two basic tenets that I would espouse. First of all, I believe if you are going to accept public money, your school must be truly open to all members of the public. In other words, you must accept any student without reservation, regardless of their handicap, any disabilities they have, or their inability to pay additional tuition. So the standard is that the student can choose the school, not that the school can choose the student. The other thing that I believe strongly, and I will be the first to admit that not all Hoosiers agree with me on this position, but I believe that the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Indiana prohibit the use of public money to either advance or inhibit the exercise of religion. And many of our very fine, outstanding private schools in this state, religion is very integrated within all aspects of the curriculum, and I believe that would preclude them from being able to accept public funding. Finally, I would just like to say I never make the assumption because a family has children in private schools that they are advocating that public money should go to private schools. I think there are many people that have children in private institutions that do believe in the separation of the church and state, and that we should not have opportunity where public money flows to those institutions.
Dr. Bennett, a response.
I don't think many of our very, very powerful special interest groups will let us get to that point. I think we need to be very pragmatic about it and understanding of that. That being said, I am a strong proponent of competition. I believe all forms of education represent competitive partners in education. I do believe that the ills of society and the stresses of society, along with technology, have outstripped our ability in public education to serve all kids. And we should embrace all of our competitive partners. One, they make us better. Two, they provide services to students we may not be able to provide services to. So I do believe that if the Department of Education does its job and we provide resources and we deregulate our public schools to the extent that they can compete, I believe public schools in Indiana will compete and win against anyone. And I think that in and of itself should make that question really kind of a moot question, because the fact is we should never be afraid to compete, and if we are, we don't belong in this business.
Rebuttal, Dr. Wood.
I believe this is one of the fundamental differences between Dr. Bennett and I in this campaign, and he and I would both share that we agree on far more things than we disagree, but I think there is a fundamental difference between us here. I believe I'm saying no to private money or public money to a private institution that has reservations for students, and I believe his answer would indicate that he does believe there is room for public money to go to private institutions.